Greetings everybody and welcome back to another fun-filled round of Magic Duels. As always, we're going to go ahead and look at the cards for this deck today. The Mono Black Control deck, which is using some old cards from quite a few years ago, which makes it kind of fun. A little natsukashi, nostalgic. And we'll have some two-headed giant at the end as well, so if you want to see that, feel free to skip. Let's go ahead and look at the cards real quick. First we have the Despoiler of Souls for 2 black, which can't block, but you can exile 2 creatures and return it to the battlefield, so it comes back quite often. Carrier Thrall, when it dies, leaves a 1/1 Eldrazi creature behind. The Rancid Rats, we've seen before, a good zombie rat, death touch blocker. Always good against big creatures, so nice to have. Love the artwork. Shadows of the Past, which is a card that you don't see all that often, but is actually really useful and quite fun to have. Also, if your hand is empty and you got nothing going on, you can use its alternate ability. Grasp of Darkness is just a nice -4/-4 for only 2 mana. Great value, as always. Reeve Soul is to get rid of smaller creatures. Despite, the mana cost, it doesn't really matter, so it can be quite nice. Of course, Mono Black, we've got Liliana in the deck as a pretty good Necromancer, as always. And the Defiant Necromancer you can transform her into. The Graveblade Marauder doesn't see a lot of play, but it's pretty good in this deck. Has Death Touch and a 1/4, but it does damage equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. So you don't mind creatures in your graveyard, and it can do a lot of damage. Here's a creature that you might have in your graveyard, the Fleshbag Marauder. Always great to force the opponent to sacrifice something valuable. And it's a pretty good 3/1 too if you decide to keep it. The Bottle Gnomes are just to gain some life. You can do a chump block and sacrifice them. Another creature that could be put into the graveyard. A good early blocker too. Murder. Sadly we are running a Murder instead of some of the other 2 mana cards which aren't in this format. The 2 mana kill cards. Read the Bones is just here because this deck needs some card draw sometimes. The second Liliana Planeswalker, which is 3 mana, 2 black, and also has some pretty nice effects. We get to play with the Erebos' Titan as well, which is a lot of fun. 4 mana for a 5/5 giant, and if there are no creatures on the opponent's side, it's indestructible. And we can return it from our graveyard to our hand if it gets killed. We also get to play with Kalitas, Trader of Get, which is always a great black card. Lifelink and create zombies, and you can make it bigger. We have a couple copies of Gravedigger. Pretty pricey for just a 2/2, but it can get some very valuable creatures back from the graveyard if you need them. We get Languish as well, which is a nice board wipe. Sometimes we'll wipe your own creatures, but can often be a one-sided board wipe. Bitter Revelation is a little more pricey than Read the Bones, but it's a little bit better of a card draw and choice card. So running 1 copy of that. We get to play with the Gilt Leaf Winnower, which is 5 mana, a little pricey, but this creature has Menace, and it also destroys a non-elf creature whose power and toughness aren't equal. So a pretty unique creature that acts as a kill card as well as a menace creature that you get to put on the field. So it's definitely worth that higher cost. And Cruel Revival can also be a 2-for-1. Getting something back from your graveyard as well as destroying a non-zombie creature. And it can't be regenerated. Not that that matters too much since there's not that many creatures with the regenerate mechanic these days. And then of course we get to play with Ob Nixilis as another Planeswalker. Can only have 1 copy of each Planeswalker, so that's why I've got the 3 different Planeswalkers in the deck. but he's got some great abilities too. And then the mana base, of course, 17 swamps. We have one Westvale Abbey, which is, always good to transform sometimes if you need be. The Foundry of the Consuls makes a couple tokens that you can sacrifice to the Westvale Abbey. And then the Mire here, the final one, is for getting creatures back from the graveyard. Once again, if your really valuable creatures have been lost somehow, such as Liliana. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into some games and see how the mono-black control deck works. I mean, I kind of call it a control deck because it's really good at controlling the board, as well as, slowly adding creatures to your benefit, and you eventually just outvalue the opponent. And we get to play, like I said, with some of the older classic cards from many years ago that are, still a lot of fun to use. They just, you don't get to see them very often anymore. But I like playing with them. So I went ahead and kept this hand. Mortuary Mire, you usually don't want to have early on, because it's for getting something back, and it enters tapped. Wow, 2 Winnows, so I hope I get to show those off. We'll just read the bones here to fix our next few draws. Definitely want the Marauder. Don't really need another land. So I guess we get 2 Fleshbag Marauders. But yeah, this deck is kind of all about controlling the board, and once again, it doesn't matter too much if the creatures die, because you've got several creatures and several abilities that want creatures in your graveyard, which we just drew. The Graveblade Marauder wants creatures in the graveyard. So we'll just make him sacrifice, and we'll play the Mire and get our Fleshbag Marauder back. The Mire puts the card on top of your deck, so you know what the next draw is, but it is a way to get something out of the graveyard. And yeah, I just wanted to take advantage of it there, rather than playing it and not getting anything back. Because the Marauder is always, decent to have in hand, especially when the opponent plays something incredibly expensive that's rather devastating. You can make them sacrifice it. So, cut, that's unfortunate. It's a clean answer to the Marauder. Oh, and he's going to play a Bone Picker. Since something died, he got to play it for 1 mana. So that was pretty nice. Go ahead and show off the Winnower here. Before you do this, to make sure it's a creature that's not an elf, because the Winnower can kill anything that is not an elf, and its power and toughness must be different, which is kind of a unique ability, and you'd be surprised, I would say more than half of creatures in Magic have power and toughness that are different. So, there's another creature right there we can kill, because it's a 4/3. But so that one we can't kill. You have to keep it in mind. Creature that has power and toughness that's different and is a non-elf. So it's definitely important to keep that in mind when you play the Winnower. But I'm going to go ahead and kill this 1/1. And then we'll force him to sacrifice the 4/3. So hopefully you can see kind of how this is being a control deck. We're just using a lot of our 2-for-1s, creatures and kill cards. Doesn't work that great against a mill strategy. Well, that's a bummer. That's a haste creature. But once again, easily killed by the Winnower. So we'll have to take 4 from this crocodile. That's okay. Ooh, hey, another Mire. Alright. Get our Marauder back here. Hopefully I can show it off. So that just put him on the top of the deck. Put another Winnower out here. Kill a 4/3. So yeah, I feel this Winnower is quite underestimated. You can also run it in, like a black-green elf deck, but I find it just works better in a mono-black, since it requires 2 black. A mono-black kind of control deck like this format. Well, he's going to shrink down one of them, that's okay. And play another 4-3. Well, I got multiple ways of getting rid of that. Plus these winnowers have menace, so he can't really block them. So that's 7 unblockable damage. And yeah, I didn't really get to show the Marauder off in this game, but having Death Touch makes it a great blocker. Even though it is a 1/4, it does a lot more damage than you might think. And yeah, so we've been keeping his board pretty much empty this entire game. He sacrificed one of his lands, so that's why he's kind of short on lands. But yeah, the game is over. We could end this in a number of ways, and then Bitter Revelation's great to have, as kind of a leftover in your hand, as draws you 2 more, and you get to pretty much choose what those 2 are. But yeah, let's go ahead and finish this, and on to the next one. We would have actually done quite a bit more damage there because of the Graveblade Marauder hitting the opponent and there being creatures in the graveyard. So here we go, game 2, and I'll show maybe 2 more games, and then we'll have a 2-headed giant round with this deck with my partner Wild Boar, as always, and you can see how this works in a 2-headed giant with 4 players. It's still pretty fun in 2-headed giant. The deck isn't the strongest, to be honest. It's not as strong as some of the other decks I've shown, like Turbo Mill or the Vampire Life deck, probably one of the strongest. But it is fun, and that's one of the things that sometimes people forget to do in Magic the Gathering, is just, have fun. Have fun with the decks, and I like using some of these older creatures. Love the artwork on the Despoiler. And for 2 mana, it's a 3/1 that, puts quite a bit of pressure on the opponent. Oh, and yeah, he's going to kill it right away. That's fine. We can bring it back anytime we want, but I don't mind having creatures in the graveyard. Go ahead and be mana efficient, play a 3-mana creature out here. So yeah, technically this creature is a 2/4 because of the one creature in the graveyard, so don't underestimate this Graveblade Marauder. He's quite fun to use, although this Stinger is really annoying with those -1/-1 counters it can put on my things. So we do have our board wipe, which I could use if 100% absolutely needed. We'll go ahead and just see if he wants to block this. Nope. So the Marauder triggers, and I get to do an extra damage. So it did, he's down to 18 because of the Despoiler of Souls that was in the graveyard. And yeah, it can add up pretty quick if you're not careful. He played a Bone Picker for the full mana cost. Flyers can be a bit of a problem. That's why Westvale Abbey's in here, an emergency, as well as the land that creates 2 Thopter tokens to help you deal with some flyers, especially if the deck has lots of flyers. Westvale Abbey is pretty much your only salvation. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the flyer with Ob Nixilis. And yeah, I don't want those -1/-1 counters, but I'm going to go ahead and keep pitching away here, doing 2 damage. And the Bottle Gnomes, of course, I can chump block and sacrifice at any time to gain me some life. So that's why he's not attacking, because it would be pointless. And he's got another Bone Pickers. Well, that's a problem for my Planeswalker. So let's go ahead and get some value out of it before it's gone. Draw a card here. Not really what I wanted. So let's read the bones, see if we've got anything on top we can use. I don't think I want any of those. There we go. So I put those two on the bottom in the hopes that the next two cards would be good, and I drew two Fleshbag Marauders. He's probably going to get rid of the 2/3. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I was hoping he would get rid of his flyer, but he's going to keep it. So yeah, we're going to probably lose our Planeswalker here. Not under a lot of pressure, but not in great shape either. Ooh, a Manticore. Doing 3 damage to the face. Haven't seen the Manticore for a long time. Something I don't see all that often. So I could clear his board out. Can also just wipe my own board as well here and kind of start over with Languish. So let's sacrifice the gnomes. Sadly, the Marauder is useless with -1 because it needs to do damage to the opponent for its effect to happen. So if it's got a -1 counter on it, it's not going to do much for you. So I'm going to go ahead and, as you saw, wipe the board, put it in the graveyard, and I've got ways to bring it back. He's got another flyer, so facing quite a few flyers. But I do have Reeve Soul, so once again I can take care of his board. Oh hey, and got a Mortuary Mire, so let's take care of the flyer first, since flyers are more difficult to handle. And we'll get back the Marauder. And once again the Despoiler, you can also bring back if you really need to. Let's go ahead and attack first, see if he wants to trade. And because I'm going to sacrifice my 2/1 here and keep the Fleshbag Marauder this time. Usually you sacrifice the Fleshbag, but I'll go ahead and keep him. And the 2/1 I'm fine sacrificing the Thrall because it creates a Scion when it dies. And once again, at any time, at instant speed, I can bring the Despoiler back from the graveyard. That's why it's glowing red, if you were wondering. But I kind of want to keep creatures in the graveyard for the moment for the for my Marauder. So our opponent played out a couple of pretty good creatures, but his hand is empty. Let's make sure and not use the Abbey here. Kind of annoying. Make sure the auto tapper doesn't tap your Abbey, because you might want to use it to create a 1/1 token. Let's go ahead and wait. Be patient here for a minute until I can draw into some more kill cards. Opponent didn't have really good attacks. Ooh, interesting. Hey, there we go. Shadows of the Past is always fun. Make sure not to tap the Abbey. And I can just trigger it at instant speed as well. We can just start draining the opponent to death. So I'm okay tapping the Abbey now. So the Shadows of the Past, when you have 4 or more creatures in your graveyard, you can just tap mana to do 2 damage and gain 2 life. So it's just a slow drain, if you don't have much else going on and most of your creatures have been wiped. It's a great... Oh wow, he exiled my Despoiler of Souls. Nice play. Oh, and we got a Titan. So that's a pretty nice draw. Once again, I shouldn't have tapped the Abbey, but that's okay. Okay, so a little bit of a board stall going on here, but... Uh-oh. Okay, he's going to kill the Titan. I get to see what's on top. probably worth keeping. No attacks. And he's gonna get rid of my Titan as well. Wow, the opponent's really getting rid of my... exiling my stuff that I can bring back from the graveyard. So let's take out a 4/4 here. Read the Bones is on top. Yeah, since I don't have anything else going on. And yeah, now that he's exiled those 2 creatures from my graveyard, I can't trigger the past here anymore. I'm going to keep the 3/1 on defense. It would have been a decent attack, but he probably would have just chumped it with the 1/1. Okay, so yeah. This is the block I wanted to make. And let's go ahead and make a token. So he paid some mana to do damage to my face. We still got the Bones on top. So yeah, the Shadow of the Past, a lot of times if you do a trade, you know, then you get to scry 2, because 2 creatures died. So it's quite underrated. Make sure to tap carefully here. Just use the black. Ooh, those are both really nice. Definitely want Kalitas. I think I'll just keep both of those. The Marauder is always good, and we can just sacrifice a token and keep the 3/1 if need be. But yeah, with Kalitas, we could start pulling ahead here. Can attack and, you know, sacrifice something like a zombie if I need to make Kalitas bigger. Okay, another flyer, that's manageable. 2/2 first strike flyer. And another Marauder. Yeah, those can add up quickly in multiples as well, so. So I'll go ahead and probably just sacrifice this 1/1. Don't really need a land. The 1/1 Scion is of course better to keep because it can be sacrificed for 1 mana. So when you have that choice, you definitely want to, you know, like sacrifice a token or something if you have a choice. Because the Scion, the 1/1 Scion there is a little more valuable as it's worth 1 mana. Okay, he's going to double block. That will not work out for him. Gonna go ahead and sacrifice the 2/2 zombie. Don't need another land. So yeah, these scries are definitely helping. Make Kalitas bigger, gain 5. That creates 2 Thopters. But yeah, I'm gonna keep putting lands on the bottom here. Yes, we'll keep that one since that'll make 2 1/1s. And I can sacrifice it right away. Mostly the Foundry is in the deck so that you can sacrifice it and make a couple of chump blockers to keep yourself alive if there's really big flyers. You know, so once again, a lot of my decks, I design them to, you know, work against a multitude of, you know, combinations instead of like a one-hit wonder kind of deck, which, you know, for example, like relies on the graveyard or something. If you have a deck that relies on the graveyard and somebody destroys your graveyard, and yeah, the Marauder killed him there because of all the extra creatures in my graveyard. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, that was actually 5 damage from the 1/4 Marauder there. And of course, that's why he blocked one of the Marauders, but I had 2. Okay, let's try one more game, and then we'll do this in a 2-headed giant round, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, as I was previously saying, you know, this is my design for this deck. I didn't really get this deck list off of the internet or anything. Most of my decks I've made myself, my own brews, and you know, I always have them with multiple ways of winning. Like, for example, the you know, this deck, you know, rather than being some kind of graveyard deck, I've got, you know, ways to block flyers, ways to sacrifice, ways to kill creatures, ways to overwhelm the opponent. But a lot of times people make decks like, you know, oh, it's a graveyard deck and it's based on reanimating big creatures, and then the opponent just plays, you know, Grafdigger's Cage or something like that, which pretty much ruins the opponent's graveyard, and then the opponent just immediately concedes. So, you know, that's not a fun game of Magic, because, yeah, turn one, you just played a Grafdigger's Cage and you win the game. So, I mean, kind of a pointless game. And a lot of people do that. You know, they have, you know, I'm thinking of like the red aggro deck, you know, is really annoying. And yeah, if they don't win right off the bat, they just have to concede because eventually they'll lose. So I found that the best decks always have a kind of balance, so that whatever the situation is, you can adapt to it. So good we got Liliana down here quick. Hopefully I can get an ultimate. And yeah, let's see if he wants to block with his 1/2. I don't think he will. And once again, you know, I might as well attack since this creature can't block. But yeah, my hand isn't the best right now. Got 2 kill cards, but nothing in the graveyard to bring back with Cruel Revival, which is usually what you want, so you can get a little bit more value out of it. And yeah, he's got some big creatures I need to deal with. I need my Winnower. There's the other Liliana. Do need to be careful in this format. If there are 2 Liliana Planeswalkers, that's not allowed in Magic Duels, sadly. And so you have to sacrifice one of your Lilianas if you have 2 Liliana Planeswalkers out in the field, which is really annoying and, you know, not the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, in this format, if you're playing this, keep that in mind. So I'm kind of hesitant to play this Liliana out, because if she transforms, then I have to sacrifice my other Liliana Planeswalker. And we're facing another Liliana. So we got a Liliana party going on today. But yeah, as you can see, you know, this deck is pretty good at controlling the board and slowly pulling ahead. This is Death's Majesty, which can be a problem. Although it's ultimate, I'm not too worried about since I got a lot of zombies. It destroys all non-zombie creatures. And yeah, let's keep a Grasp of Darkness. Okay, and another Despoiler. Probably don't need more than 5 mana. So I'm just trying to keep the board under control here, in the hopes that maybe I can ultimate my Liliana Planeswalker here, and then I could play the, well, definitely wants to keep his Planeswalker alive apparently. Hopefully I can, you know, ultimate, get the emblem, and then I can play the second Liliana out of my hand. Because usually she transforms into the Planeswalker pretty quickly, and then you have to sacrifice one of your Planeswalkers, and that's not fun. Oh, that's a problem. It's gonna bring that 4/3 back and do 2 damage to Liliana, so I will not be doing the emblem this turn, sadly. That's unfortunate. Take me another 2 turns here, and in the meantime, he's gonna start pulling ahead with his Liliana. And yeah, this doesn't work. This is a zombie, so that's unfortunate. So can't use Cruel Revival there. Cruel Revival only kills non-zombies. And once again, I'm keeping this other Liliana because I don't want to accidentally transform it. But I will keep the pressure on his Liliana here and see if he chump blocks it. So he's going to let it go this time. Okay, well. Yeah, I didn't really mind the Scion dying. So I'm going to have to chump block the 2-2. Okay, wait, he's just going to go face. That's interesting. So I was going to chump block it if he was going to go for Liliana. And he's going to get rid of my Despoiler of Souls again. So pretty good move by the opponent, since that's the one you can recurve from the graveyard. So let's keep plussing here. Probably going to have to keep shrinking down this 4-3. And just hope Liliana can stay this way for one turn. Just going to go ahead and use this to kill a creature. Sadly, I have nothing in the graveyard to get back. And yeah, let me keep these two. So the 3-1 can't block, so I'm going to keep these two back. I'm just trying to get Liliana's ultimate going here. Probably putting too many eggs in one basket by taking risks and using all my resources just to get the emblem. And the emblem's not guaranteed to win me the game, but it can be pretty powerful. Oh yeah, shoot. So yep, no emblem for me again. Yeah, I may have to just give up getting an emblem. The opponent's not making it easy, although they are milling themselves a bit here. Okay, Westvale Abbey can be useful. If I could get the emblem. If you're wondering, the emblem makes 2/2 zombies every turn, which is 2 plus the number of zombies I have, so it's not quite exponential, but it's pretty ridiculous how many zombie tokens you can make with the emblem. And then once again, that's why Westvale Abbey's in the deck, so you can sacrifice those emblems, or those tokens, sorry, and change your Westvale Abbey into the Ormondal Profane Prince, the 9/7 indestructible flyer, which is also a quick game ender. Alternative win condition if you're in trouble. But yeah, I don't have too high hopes for getting an emblem here. Ooh, ribbons to my face. So he did 6 damage to my face. That was the cut to ribbons. You usually don't see that used all that much unless you got nothing else going on. And yeah, surprised he didn't go for Liliana. I guess the opponent doesn't really care about Liliana until she's threatening the emblem. What does this do when it exerts? All creatures get +1/+0. That's a little scary. So I'll just make one of the zombies useless. And yeah, create a human here to block. I'm getting pretty low on health. When you get to around 10, that's when you really need to start being careful. Keeping blockers back. Don't be aggressive. I've seen a lot of players are just way too aggressive with their attacks, and when you're this low on health, you need to keep blockers back. You know, the only thing I could really attack with technically is the 3-1 because it can't block. But yeah, we're in trouble here. Hazoret's Monument makes his red spells one less. And he got rid of my... Fortunately, he didn't exile a creature, just exiled my murder. And he buffed everything. I'm surprised he didn't go all out at Liliana there. Yeah, let me chump block this with a token. I didn't want to do it, you know, with my 1/3 gnomes, because then my Liliana would have transformed if I would have sacrificed that. So we got our emblem. Make sure to tap carefully, put the rancid rats out there, but yeah, we could still be in trouble. Even though I finally got the emblem out there, I think it took too many turns to get it going. So, I mean, we will make 3 zombies. And then next turn we'll be making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 extra zombies. Oh wow, that's bad. Bad news. That 5/4 that puts -1/-1 counters on everything that your opponent controls. So hopefully he doesn't have a card to discard. Yeah, once again, a 5/4 flyer. You know, I don't have any ways of dealing with that right now. So that's a problem. Let me go ahead and sacrifice this end of turn. So here's the Liliana transforming. Gain 3 life. And now I have the other Liliana Planeswalker, but I would have had to sacrifice it. I can return something from the graveyard that's 2, but I don't think there's anything. Yeah, I mean, the rats I could technically bring back. And that's an extra zombie. I'm just going to go ahead and plus here. Force a discard. There's nothing for him to discard. And, yeah, I can make my Ormondal Profane Prince here, which I may have to do. But yeah, so there's 7 more zombies that we made. So I got plenty of blockers. I gained some life, but we could still be in big trouble. Oh, he's bringing something back. 2/2 to force a discard. Oh, and then that discard's going to put 1/1 counters on everything. Yeah, that was unfortunate. I should have sacrificed some things in response. Wow, yeah, this is a problem. Okay, gonna have to make a bunch of chump blocks. I will be making a bunch of zombies, so I may want to try killing a couple of his 3/2s here. 6 damage I can't do anything with because that's his flyer. Okay, that was probably a mistake on my part because, yeah, I should have just sacrificed all my zombies, but then he would have had a full grip. Because I only get the zombies at end of turn. So let me bring another zombie back from the graveyard here. Yeah, I'm in trouble. It's not good. Opponent took over pretty quick with that 5/4. So yeah, I only made 4 zombies. And he's got 5 in the air, so technically I'm not dead. Oh, a Manticore. Yeah, he's going to sacrifice that 6/6. And that does 6 damage to my face. Wow. Well played, opponent. That was a pretty good play, and I made some misplays during that game for sure. But that was a good game. A good game. Even with an emblem, it didn't quite win me the game. I think it took too long. And I spent too many resources just to get the emblem out there, but I could have played it differently. But anyway, that was still actually a pretty good game. Well played, opponent. And now we're going to go ahead and do a 2-headed giant round using this mono black control deck. Let's see how it works with my teammate, Wild Boar. I'm not sure what deck he's going to choose, but we'll see. And once again, I'm gonna try controlling the board here. And what's Wild Boar up to? This hand has only 2 lands, but I'm gonna keep it because I have Shadows of the Past and a kill card, and 1 more mana I can play my murder, so it might be worth it. Once again, a little risky to keep a 2-lander. You always want 3 lands. And it looks like a Wild Boar is playing maybe the Surge deck, which I showcased a while back. Check that out if you missed it. The Surge deck is really fun. Probably one of the most enjoyable decks to play in 2-headed giant. Just really fun to do double Surge with your ally because of the ridiculous synergies that the Surge deck has with playing 2 cards, which accounts for your opponent, or your, not opponent, but ally, sorry, your ally playing cards. So yeah, check out the Surge game. I recorded the 2-headed giant Surge game. The Surge deck is really fun, probably one of my favorites. Turbo Mill being up there as well. But so far, our opponent doesn't have too much going on. A 0-3. He's got a 2-2 now. The other one doesn't seem to be doing anything. Kalitas is a nice draw. So now I've got some kill cards ready to go, and if anything dies, I can scry. So let's take the 2-2 out. So I can scry. Go ahead and keep the Foundry, because that is another land, and later I can sacrifice it for a couple of flyers. And in the meantime, Wild Boar is putting some pressure on the opponent with his haste creatures. Maybe he's not doing the Surge deck. It looks a little different than the Surge deck. Possibly, maybe he's ramping into some big red and blue creatures. We'll have to see what else he's got in his deck. But yeah, let me get Kalitas out here. That was kind of a risky play since the opponent could have had a Censor to cancel Kalitas since I was tapping out for it. But that was probably the best play I had, since the only other play I had was just -4/-4, and I really don't want to do that to the 2-1. Kind of a waste. Want to keep it for a bigger creature. So Wild Boar played out Key to the City. Another pretty interesting, fun card to use. That you can tap it to draw cards, and people don't realize that, you know, artifacts and, you know, enchantments that actually tap can untap during your upkeep. So he's going to play Harnessed Lightning to buff his wizards since they have prowess. And he's going to do it for 0, just so he can have a 3 spare energy built up there. Since, yeah, there was nothing worth really killing there, and the 2-1 isn't really a threat. Since I've got Kalitas on defense. So we're doing okay here. And I've got some good cards in my hand. I just need one more land, I think, and I'm good to go. But if anything dies, of course I can scry. But here's Key to the City, if you were wondering what that does. Kind of a unique and rare effect that you don't see all that often. And that's kind of what's fun, playing with some of these older cards that are nostalgic. And they're still quite effective, too. Alright, I drew the land I needed. So I can play out the Winnower. Ooh, what's he going to do with that? Nothing? You just wanted to cycle it. Kill the 2-1 and make a zombie. So the reason I got a zombie was of Kalitas. When Kalitas is on the field, when anything dies, instead it gets exiled, and I get a zombie in return. And I thought it was worth exiling because that creature he could embalm. So now that it's exiled, he can't embalm it. Wild Boar is going to get some benefits out of his burn spell. Buff his wizards again. And yeah, our opponent's in trouble here. Got no blockers. We got 7 damage coming across. And I got another zombie too because of that burn spell that Wild Boar did. He may be on some kind of energy deck. We just haven't seen too many of the energy synergy cards yet. Well, yeah, this is working pretty well, this combination against our opponent. We're still at full health, and our opponent seems to be in trouble here. Doesn't have anything on the field. Okay, there he's got a 3/3 token. Hippopotamus. 3/3 hippo, and the other opponent's going to make a 2/2 zombie. But yeah, with Liliana as well here, I think we're pretty much in control. I'm going to get rid of this 3/3 so he can't draw extra cards. Bit of Revelation. Yeah, my hand is pretty good, so don't really need card draw. Wild Boar is going to play out the 6/5 Cryptic Serpent. And I'm going to shrink down the zombie, which he's going to be forced to chump block with. And yeah, this might actually be lethal. He can't block the 4/3 because it has Menace. So he'll probably block Kalitas. Yep. Cruel Revival on top, I don't need that. So yeah, the Shadows of the Past, giving me all these scry chances is really nice. It helps fix your draws if you're having trouble with this mono black control deck. But yeah, our opponent's at 1 life here, so any kind of drain effects. And he either needs a board wipe or a ton of chump blockers. And yeah, I mean a ton. There's no way you can play that many chump blockers out because he'd need 2 for the menace creature. Wild Boar is going to activate Key to the City. But yeah, with a menace creature, I don't think he's got any way of coming back. I'm not sure why Wild Boar activated Key to the City. He may want it. He may want the chance to draw an extra card. That's probably why, because as it untaps, he can pay 2 mana to draw an extra card. But yeah, the opponent looks like he's given up. So Wild Boar can pay 2 mana and draw an extra card. And yeah, I have nothing to kill with Cruel Revival here, sadly. So looks like the game is over. Good game, opponent. And good times, Wild Boar, my very skilled partner in crime. I could give one of his creatures -2, -1, but we'll just do it to nothing. If you didn't know, you can do that. You don't have to do the -2, -1 to anything. But yeah, he's super dead. So alright, that was a fun one, and hopefully a good showcasing of the mono black deck. It's a really fun deck, uses some older cards in the format, which might be nostalgic for you to use, so I recommend trying it out. And Wild Boar enjoys it too. Thank you for watching, hope you all enjoyed. Thanks to Wild Boar for the fun two-headed giant round, and we'll see you all in the next video. じゃあ皆さん、またね